Hello, welcome back to Prison Architect 101. Here we are in episode, class 4, what do you want to call it. I'm going to be looking at the basic detention center for this episode. So we're looking at the holding cell, what it does, the shower, yard, kitchen, canteen, and the guards and cooks. So we've gone ahead and built the foundations for the prison zone we're going to be using. We've also known how to build foundations, we know how they work. It's just really wasting your time watching more of those be built. Maybe wondering why a few of these have doors and what they're for and whatnot, but we will get to that, so do not stress, do not worry. Let's just work through this list one item at a time. First on there, the holding cell. In our rooms tab, in the holding cell zone, there's a few requirements for this before we can get a big tick of approval. It requires to be at least 5 by 5. Enclosed by walls and doors, has to be inside, can't be outside, must have at least one toilet and one bench. Cool, easy stuff. So we'll just zone this area in here, 9 by 9, well over the 5 by 5 area, and that will be our holding cell for the prisoners. Still requires a toilet and the bench, but that's easy to build. We go into our build menu and our objects. All the items that you need for the room are highlighted in white. This is super handy when you're trying to find things. There's also the search field, but this is just... it's so good having this. If you're missing something from the room, if I zoom out, they disappear. So if I need to find something for an office, I need a chair, filing cabinet, office desk, it's all there. It's all there. But anyway, if you mouse over the room, it will tell you what it's missing anyway, so that's good as well. Let's build a few toilets. Now, one toilet will get the room a pass, but you need more than that depending on how big or how many prisoners you plan to hold in this holding cell. I only plan to hold between 5 and 10 prisoners, so I reckon 5 toilets is more than enough for them. Leaving some room for the bench, of course, as well on the edge there. Now that's the bare minimum for a holding cell. The bare bones, just scraping by, that will give you a tick of approval, but we need more in this room. Because we have no beds or cells anywhere, prisoners have nowhere to sleep. So we need to put beds in for prisoners to obviously get some shut-eye and some relaxing and get through the night, essentially. Now, there is a formula you can figure out to, or use rather, not figure out, to best place your beds in prisoners. So not all prisoners will be sleeping at the same time. Some will be awake, some will be asleep. It's a gamble who will be up and who won't be. So I generally go for at least 75% of the prisoners will have a bed. So let's put in at least 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Put in 8 just to make it even. So yeah, at least have enough prisoners to cover the at least 75% of them at a minimum. That way, the ones that aren't sleeping will just go to the toilet or go to the bench or something else. So, something will be covered for them. That's the holding cell done. That is the holding cell, big tick of approval. Let's move on to the shower. Again, objects menu. We haven't roomed anything yet, so back to the rooms menu. Find the shower. There it is. Again, depending on what grant you're doing, the rooms you're looking for will appear with a nice white circle, so it makes it very, very easy to find. I'm going to designate this area up here as a shower room. There is no requirements as for size, but there is a requirement for a shower head. That's pretty obvious. What else would you put in a shower head? Or shower room, rather. So we'll go into here and find our shower head, again being highlighted by the wonderful white square. And we'll just put in a bunch in here. Make it nice and neat. Now, one really cool thing with the shower room and the showers is the drain. This acts as a door for your water. If I left this like this, the water will just flow out over here and just become messy and disgusting and just blah. So what we're going to do is put some drains in. This will stop the water flow at this point here. No water will go past this at all. It will stay there, no airflow, nothing. Now, one thing we haven't done yet is put water up to this zone here. So they flash with a big, annoying tier of water. It's just begging to be wet. So we want to go into our utilities menu, get our small pipe or large pipe, depending on how far away it is, This is just in the area for small pipes. We'll just build that straight up. Best thing with pipes is to never loop them around. That will cause you problems. Always keep them going in one direction, always having an endpoint. Don't ever let them go back on themselves. It will cause you problems and havoc, and some things will get water, some things won't. It will just be a complete nightmare. So at all costs, do not loop your pipes. If you're building them in such a way where you have to fill this zone here in, that's fine. It won't cause you problems. But if this pipe has to go back to, say, here, like if I just pause it real quick, if this pipe goes up here, around, down, then into here, that will cause you problems. Do not do that. It will just be a nightmare, and no, don't even try. Just no. Right, so the shower is done. They're just building the pipe up to it. Next on the list is the yard. Back to our rooms tab, we will find the yard in a nice big white square. This needs to be 5 by 5. Easy as. At least 5 by 5. It can be indoors or outdoors. Same with the shower. I forgot to mention that. Shower can be indoors or outdoors. Doesn't matter where you put it. It can be anywhere you like. It can be there. It can be there. It can be there. It doesn't matter. Obviously it does, depending on where your prisoners are. But we'll build the yard in this zone here. Now the yard only requires to be 5 by 5. There's no items required for the zone. It doesn't need to have anything in it. But the yard can be used to satisfy other needs. Now, you can build showers and toilets and things in there to help your prisoners out, which is what I do almost in every prison. So we're building a couple of toilets, at least 2. Again, depends how many prisons you have. Seeing I'm only looking at supporting between 5 and 10, 2 toilets should be more than enough to satisfy them while they're in there. We'll also pop in 2 shower heads as well, with the all-important drains around them. Again, to stop water flow going everywhere. And then there's also the phone booths and weights benches. These are the recreation or family kind of need satisfiers. They will help your prisoners stay sane and safe and not want to cause problems. So let's put in 2 phone booths and 2 weight benches. It's a very tight, cramped yard, but this is a very small prison. It's not designed to hold very many. Also need to put in some water there as well. That can be piggybacked from that system or that system, doesn't really matter. It's just easier seeing it's right there. So they'll go ahead and build that, but that's the yard essentially done. Next on the list is the kitchen. This is where things get interesting. The kitchen requires a few things. It has no minimum room size requirement, but it does require to be indoors and a few items on it. Now these items are very, very power hungry. If we go into the objects menu, we have the cooker, fridge, and sink. The sink only requires water, nothing else. Let's just pop a sink in, put it right there, that's fine. But the fridge and the cooker require a lot of power. I think they require at least 5 each, for each one you put down. Now, given the fact how this kitchen is designed, there's only one way in, one way out, so we want to keep the fridges to the back. So how the kitchen works is the cooks bring in food from the delivery zone over here. They will walk in with the food in through the prison, come around and put the food into the fridges. So that is the only point in the system you want to have them having a long walk to put that food in. Once the food's in, if there's not enough fridge space, they'll put the food on the floor. So have enough fridges to cover all your food. I will put in 2 to start with. 2 is overkill. Believe me, 2 is more than enough. But you tend to forget about them as you're expanding the prison. So it's best to build a couple to begin with, just so you make sure you have enough. Next is the cookers. Again, I'll be building 2 of them. Overkill again. You only really need 1 for 5 to 10 prisoners, but 2 is good to have in case you forget about it when you're expanding the prison. Now how this works is I'm planning this canteen a little bit differently than what I usually would. Now, the kitchen is being built up at the moment. What you would have is the cookers as close to the exit as possible. The reason being is the next thing on the list is the canteen. So back on our rooms tab for the canteen, I'll be building this in here. Now, much like the yard, the canteen can be used to satisfy other needs as well. So The canteen can also have phone booths, exercise booths, toilets, showers. It's essentially the yard, but they also eat there at the same time. So it works as a two-way street, really. Let's just hook that water up to that one and hook power up to those. So as I was saying with the canteen having the cookers as close to the exit as possible, is you want to have the serving table, one of the primary parts of the canteen, close to the door. So all the cooks have to do is get the food off there and run straight there. There's no hassle, there's no mucking around, it's off the grill, straight there. Now that is a pretty short distance. That is actually pretty close. But the closer the better, essentially. How is our power doing? Our power is doing fine. We'll wait till we put that extra cable in, and we'll just see how much power we have left over. Because these things suck up power pretty high. There we go. So our power went from just over halfway to now almost maxed out. So before we go any further, let's put a few capacitors, just in case things go a bit hairy. 2 extra will do. I can't really tell you when to build capacitors. It's more keep an eye on your power supply, and as it's reaching its next notch, add a few more in. If you're planning on unlimited funds, just build all of them at once. There's no real need to wait for power to expand, but when you're starting your first prison, be very mindful of how much money you're spending and how early on you're spending that money. You don't want to go all out and spend all your money on capacitors. That's almost 9 grand for all those capacitors there, roughly. Is it 9? I think it's 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's about 16. So that's 16 grand. That's half of your starting money gone just on capacitors. So be very mindful of how you build them and when you build them. Anyway, back to the canteen. So we've run the indoors part. That's done. The serving table is done. Now onto the table and benches. There's 2 ways of doing this. You can build the standard table, easy as, and the bench, easy as. Now given the prices, the bench is $30. You can also build chairs for them, but the chairs are $30 each. There's no point spending $30 for 4 seats when you can buy 1 bench to support 4 people on them. So each table supports 8 people. This canteen will hold 16. More than enough for what this prison is designed for. You can build multiple canteens across multiple security zones, which I will show you later on how they work. It's a very interesting system with the logistics side of things, but don't get confused with that just yet. Let's just get this prison up and running, and once we start making money and things start flowing, we'll then start looking at going into more depth and security zones and whatnot. So that's the bare bones canteen done. That is the minimum requirement for you for the canteen. The next side of things is the toilets and showers and whatnot. It's very important to put these in early so your prisoners can satisfy needs when they're not hungry. So with the regime, which we'll look at next time, depending on when you put in food times, prisoners may not be hungry from the last food time. So they'll just be sitting there doing nothing, getting bored and just mucking around. So they need something to do. They need to satisfy other needs. So building other things, toilets, phone booths, exercise benches will definitely help you out in the long run. It will keep them happy, sane. It just works out better for them to have it there. So we'll put the same thing as the yard, 2 shower heads, 2 toilets, very basic. Put in a couple of phone booths, a couple of TVs. Very luxurious, this prison, very luxurious. Put in a pool table as well. Very, very fancy dancy. And that's essentially your need satisfying canteen done. That will help out your prison immensely in the long run. It is more expensive to set up when you first start out, but believe me, when your prisoners first arrive and they have nothing to do, nothing to satisfy their needs, this will save your bacon. It will be a lifesaver. You hook those up with the water as well. We'll hook those up momentarily. And those ones up there as well. Easy as. Now the next 2 bit is next 2 really of 2 guards and 2 cooks. Easy as. 2 guards in our staff room. Now what the guard does, he is pretty obvious. He's a guard. He watches over your prison to keep it safe and whatnot. Costs $100 per day, $500 one off, so that's higher. 2 is the bare bones minimum, but to keep your prison safe and running, I recommend at least 5 in the very beginning. If you can't afford 5, 3 will do, but 5 is more keeping things safe and in the security zone. So I reckon at least 5 to begin with. Now we only need 2 cooks, so we'll put those straight into the kitchen. They'll go straight there. And there you have it. There is the basic detention center done. This is now ready to accept prisoners. How many will we be taking in next time? I will actually explain the different type of prisoners next time, but let's just see how many we have taking in. 15 prisoners. I'll have to do some backstage editing to get that number down, but for the meantime, we'll just take in normal risk. I don't want to get things too deep too early with those type of prisoners, but I will do some editing in the background, and I will see you all next time.